Making a short film is not easy, and creating one all by yourself is even harder, but it's not impossible. I'm here to show you that even if you think you need a whole crew to develop a documentary short film, it is possible to do it all on your own. I've done this before with the running short film I created a few years ago, and this time I made a powerlifting documentary short film to push myself further and see what I'm now capable of. Today I'm going to take you through my process of planning and filming this short film so you can see the steps you need to take to create one yourself. I'll share behind the scenes moments so you can see the lighting setups and how I envisioned my shots. I'll also show some rigs that I put together for certain shots I wanted. And in the end, I'll tell you what I learned from working on something like this and what I believe I could improve on so you don't make the same mistakes I made when you plan your films. You can check out the full powerlifting short film on my channel, and if you're interested in seeing a breakdown of the editing and color grading of this documentary, I created another video on that topic now live on the Adorama Cinema channel. The first and most important step you should take if you want to make a short film is pre-production. Don't ever skip this step. The films and shows we look up to all started in this stage, and it's what helps you succeed in the end. My short film was around 10 minutes long, and whether that seems short or long to you, it doesn't change the fact that you need to plan accordingly to get to that final moment of publishing it. Milano is my go-to for planning my videos, no matter the project, so you can see here everything I took into account to get to filming. Here are the important details and notes I wanted to remember throughout this process. This is some of the inspiration I collected to help me gather ideas of what I can create within the powerlifting and that workout gym vibe. And this is the most important column about the project, with subboards covering the interview, including the questions I would ask in a separate document, the gear I would need for the actual setup, and inspiration for how I wanted it to look. The next subboard was for a general inspiration mood board of random ideas. And the final subboard was for the shot list to give my ideas more structure for how I want the film to end up. You'll notice in my shot list that some ideas didn't make the final cut as we didn't have enough time to film them, but I can always save them for a future project. With a good plan prepared, it's time to start filming. The first day of filming would cover the sit-down interview in their garage gym. Before I show the behind the scenes, I would like to thank Nanlite for supplying all the additional lighting I needed to make this short film possible. I got to use the FC500B, a powerful bicolor light that gave me all the reach I needed to light up my spaces. I also used the Pavotube 2 6XR, which was a great hair light that is easy to place anywhere with its magnetic sides. And I used my own 2-foot Pavotube 15C, which I've owned for quite a while now, providing a good fill light when I needed it. I hope to upgrade to the newer 15C as it's one of my most used lights, and I only have the first version. Also for this short film, I did set up the equipment, film, edit, color grade, and create the sound design all by myself, but it would have been difficult to move all this equipment without the help from my parents. And thank you to my wonderful girlfriend Isabel for being there for 2 of the filming days to help film some of the behind the scenes footage you will see. Without them, taking an Uber into the city with all this equipment would have cost so much, and the BTS footage wouldn't be as good without her help. Now let's break down the interview setup. It felt like this was our best and only location for setting up the interview, as it gave me space to set up the lighting any way I wanted, and it connected with powerlifting since it was in their home gym. Before lighting the space, I set up the angle I want the interview frame to be. For lighting, the FC500B was my key light in a book light setup. I used 2 light stands for the 500B and the reflector, and attached a white diffusion sheet to a C-stand with 2 clamps to soften the light before it reached the subject. Because this light is super powerful, even after bouncing the source and diffusing it further, I only needed the light at 20% intensity at 4500 Kelvin. Then on a tripod, I attached the Pavo 15C vertically as a harsher fill light for my subject, placed opposite my key light. And finally, I added the smaller Pavotube as a hair light. Since it has magnets built into the light, I could attach it to their powerlifting setup behind them and have it point down to make them pop even more against what's behind them. I always like to mix soft and harsh lighting when I can, so it adds more dimension to my shots. Here is how the lights look, turning them on one by one in the order I set them up so you can see what each one does. For the microphone, I bought a new mic, the Sennheiser MKE 600, as I wanted the interview to sound crisp and be as important as the visuals. This one was great as I could still connect it straight to my Sony a7 IV with batteries without needing phantom power. After setting everything up, we filmed for about an hour for each interview and packed it all up. I then listened to the answers and created an outline of the short film with their responses to settle on what I needed to film. I went back to my shot list to finalize shots and moved on to the first day of filming them working out in the same location. My main lighting setup would consist of having one garage door open and setting up the 500B outside on a light stand so it would enhance the natural light entering the space. I also tried to set up the same diffusion sheet from the book light onto the open door with tape. At first it was a good idea, but it wasn't long enough to cover the full area. That day also ended up being windy with some rain, so it worked for some shots, but I ended up removing it later as it became a hassle. I was still able to mix the shots that had both the diffusion up and taken down in the final film. I just wanted the outside to have that look of being blown out and used as the side or backlight of the shots I captured. The total film time for this day was 4 to 5 hours, and I wish I had even more time, but you work with what you've got and learn to move faster as you get into the flow. If I had more time, I would have set up some shots on a tripod instead of handheld. But since I made my rig heavy enough, I was able to make some of the handheld shots steady where there wasn't much motion. And I could add some stabilization in post if needed. The heavier the camera rig, the less micro shakes you'll have when handheld. I'm still happy with how it turned out, and some of the small motions enhanced the feel of what I was going for. For one shot idea I had, I wanted to recreate what I call the Zac Efron bench press shot from Iron Claw. This was easy to set up as I used the C-stand to attach just my camera over the bench and had a long HDMI cable connected to my monitor so I can see the shot and keep the setup light on the stand. I would say thanks to Iron Claw, that's how I came up with the idea to create this powerlifting short film. I really enjoyed that film, and even though it's about wrestling, I knew I wanted to work on a sports short film in a gym setting so I can practice my cinematography in an environment I'm not familiar with. This shot did have the diffusion sheet on the garage, which gave a nice roll off from the highlights to shadows, and I filmed this shot with both of them as I wanted Marcus's to start the film and Kai's to end it. We kept going for hours, and with every action I filmed, I made sure to capture them in different angles and frame sizes to help make the editing process easier. Remember, it is always better to have more footage than you'll need, so try to get a wide, medium, and close-up shot for every action you film. Have them repeat certain things so you can capture it at different angles, and you'll end up with a more interesting edit in the end. This whole shoot was about filming them in their environment as powerlifters, so I can tell their story in the way that's unique to them. We wrapped that day and prepared for the next day of filming in the Squat and Science powerlifting gym. Another week passed and we started the day filming before the gym even opened. I also want to give a big thank you to Patricia for getting us in early to film, as I didn't want to be in other people's way and I could focus on capturing just them. For this location, I mainly used the practical lights that were already in the gym. In addition, I wanted to keep my setup small, so I only used the Paveltube 2 6XR to add a bit more kick to the lighting where I wanted it. The size is great for hiding it in different spots, making it versatile in where it can be placed. It's easy to hold by hand, place it on a tripod, or set it on a metal surface. This day was about letting them do what they do in the gym and capturing their routine. I mostly stayed out of their way and followed them around, really making it feel like I was filming a documentary. But there was one shot I did have planned that I wanted to get, which was a locked-on object perspective of Kai doing her squats. I really wanted to get a shot that captured the heaviness of the weight she was lifting, so I thought it would be impactful to attach the camera to the bar. I used a super clamp with an arm I got from the top rig slider, meant for extra stabilization on a tripod as the setup. I attached the camera to the arm and the clamp to the bar and squatted with Kai, holding the camera as the rig isn't strong enough to hold the setup on its own, and I didn't want it slipping off the bar. It took about 3 to 4 takes, but I am extremely happy with how this turned out. I also filmed the same shot in their garage gym, but I thought the vibe of the actual gym felt better, and I think I was right about that. The rest of the filming was pretty simple, making sure to get a variety in what I captured with each workout they did, and we wrapped filming after 3 hours. And for the final day of shooting, this would be Marcus's powerlifting meet. This was the last day of filming, and I wanted to incorporate his meet after listening to the answers he gave, talking about his competition experiences. On this day, I was filming like I was a fly on the wall. I kept my setup small, just using my camera, a grip, and the smaller MKE 400 mic. I made sure to stay out of his way, let him prepare for what was coming, and get in that competition mode so he could be ready. One more big thank you to Gino, the photographer at this event, for letting me get the chance to follow Marcus around and film during the meet. Today was more about the emotion and trying to capture what Marcus is feeling before, during, and after his attempts. For the actual competition itself, you get 3 attempts in each category. With each lift, you usually increase your weight until you go for a personal record on the final attempt, and I wanted to make sure I captured each lift in a different frame size. I started with close-up shots of him on his first attempt to get his reaction, then went for a medium shot on his second lift and a wide shot behind the crowd for his final attempt. This made it easy to mix together the attempts in the montage I created in the short film. I also made sure to capture the in-between moments, as he warms up before, gets into the competition mindset, and right before he goes up for his attempt. I also wanted to make sure I showed his support system around him, his coach, and Kai as she cheered him on. Looking back, this definitely felt like the easiest day of filming, as everyone was super kind and understanding as they saw me following Marcus around, filming anything I could get. In the end, it took a while for me to edit this whole thing together, as I filmed this just before going on my Philippines trip, but don't forget you can see my editing and color grading breakdown for this film on the Adorama Cinema channel. But there is so much I learned from this experience, and many things you and I can take away from this to improve your process of creating a short film. It is possible to create a short film all by yourself, and this will help you make things easier if you consider these things. First, put enough time during pre-production to plan properly and clearly outline a schedule you want to follow with your subjects. When you get to actually filming, you might not be able to execute your plan perfectly, running out of time or scheduling conflicts, but you won't have to worry too much because you prepared for anything that could happen on set and worked through that. Know what is most important to get from your shot list, and on the day of, see if there are other moments you can capture that you didn't think of before. Even though I missed some shots, I was able to capture others that still worked in the final film. Especially when you're the only one filming, being able to quickly think on your feet and pivot to the next thing is important because you don't want to waste time on set when you know you're limited. But sometimes it's okay to take a little more time to get the shot just right before moving on. You could probably see, or I definitely see, some shot mistakes I have in the short film. Whether they are out of focus or a better angle could have been made, if you can take an extra minute or two to retake the shot, make sure it looks all good, try to get that done. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you think you can quickly improve the shot by making some adjustments, give it a shot before moving on. And as I've mentioned throughout this video, it really helps to capture a variety of angles and frame sizes for the same action to help you create a better edit in the end. There are the main 3 lifts you do in powerlifting, and I had to find different and creative ways of showcasing each lift to keep the audience engaged in what they were watching. The same lift in the same angle or frame size over and over again will leave the audience bored quickly, so experiment with how you can film your scenes. On the editing side, when you choose to use it, music is very important to get right. I ended up using 6 songs throughout the film, and I must have gone through at least 15 different songs before I finally found the right ones that matched the tone and vibe I wanted. That and the sound design are important to get right because the visuals are just half of the film, and this other half matters just as much. One thing I know I could work on is improving the pacing in my short films. The in-between moments going from one chapter to the next is something I struggle to piece together at times. I have to plan better for those, and it could be as simple as filming insert shots to ease that transition. Pacing is very important so it doesn't feel like you're moving too fast or even too slow, and that's something I have to work on as I tend to move on too quickly. The last bit of advice I have when you're doing this all by yourself is to start simple with your idea, especially if you're more of a beginner. I first started with making a short film on powerlifters, and I built off from that. Get to know who you plan to film or study everything you need to know about the topic you pick so you know what you should capture and it's authentic, honest, and real. Whoever you decide to shoot, get them comfortable with you and warm them up to be on camera. You don't want them feeling weird or uncomfortable when filming, so start with the easiest shots they can do and gradually move forward from there. There's so much you have to take care of when taking on a project this big by yourself, so don't feel bad if everything doesn't go exactly as planned. Nothing will be perfect, and as long as you keep going, get to the end of the film and hit publish, that is way more important than never posting. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment down below any questions you may have, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.